Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood, hosting this shenanigans that we have going on today. Jacob Litton is down there. We have a guest, Brian from Passy Time. It's his second time being on the show. We like you if you come on more than once. So glad to have you back, Brian. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, guys.
You guys got to check out his podcast, Passing Time. They're on YouTube. They, do some shorts on there. Check them out. They're fun guys, and Brian knows his stuff, so that's why we like having him on the show.
Appreciate it.
Yep. So it is 9:15. If you're watching us live, we're a little bit late. Normally, I like to blame those things on Jacob. Today was totally my fault because I wanted to catch the end of the Michigan game. It was a pretty good basketball game. Michigan was losing almost the whole game and came back at the end to win. So 3-5. So go blue.
Go blue. This also just proves the only reason you're owning up to it is because Brian witnessed that you were the one that was late. Usually you blame me when it's not my fault because, they just got to take your word for it. But now you can't do that because Brian's here. So.
Yes. All right. Well,
I was paying
Brian's
attention
all the way
too.
across the state. I'm not that scared
too.
of him. Yeah. But I didn't delay it past the Pistons game, or we wouldn't be doing this till about 11:30 at night. But the Pistons are playing right now against Denver, so we'll keep an eye on that. We got Lions things to discuss and some NFL, the award shows, some Pro Bowl shenanigans, coaching stuff. We're going to talk about it all here. But I want to, before we talk about the Mike Kafka stuff, because that's obviously the big story that's happened since our last show. I haven't talked to you, Brian, about Drew Petzing. So I know the Kafka thing maybe changes your thought process, so we could talk about it there in the Kafka thing. But your initial thoughts on Petzing and where you're at right now?
Well, initially I was pretty underwhelmed. I was like, who do we bring in? I mean, he was never even on my radar. And then hearing that, the Lions are hiring Drew Petzing from Arizona, and I was like, I don't think Arizona was all that great this year. Why are we bringing him in? But seeing like the combo of him and Mike Kafka is going to be for me a lot better. It's going to be it's stronger. I feel like they're going to complement each other a lot, quite a bit, and that run pass connection. I think that's going to be huge. Now, in saying all that, like I was a Mike McDaniel guy. I was hopeful. I was those are my dreams, and I was going tonight saying my prayers and hoping that we would have the mad scientist coming to Detroit, but it sounds like he wasn't a fit.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we won't know the backstory on that.
Right.
Jacob, I think you and I maybe talked about this. So Mike McDaniel, took the job. Took the job with, I almost said San Diego. I almost said it, but I'm going to say Los Angeles Chargers.
You keep doing that.
I know. I'm old and I think of those things. So Mike McDaniel took that job, and then it came out that he was still going to interview for the Buffalo job. And I just want to know, Jacob, what do you think the general Lions fan would have thought had that story come out in that same order for, say, we hired it, Mike McDaniel, we make Brian happy, his prayers have been answered, but then, this other shoe drop. So what do you think the reaction would have been, Jacob?
It still would have been, like the Ben Johnson, like the traitor stuff. Like, how could you? Like, he's not even in the building. He doesn't have he's staying in a hotel in Detroit. He doesn't even have a house or apartment yet. And they're still going to be, how could he even do this to us? And, just outrageous. I thought that was funny, though, because your theory about the warm weather, you were like, it doesn't, I think maybe it has something to do with the warm weather. It's like the irony if he actually goes to Buffalo, then the warm weather warm weather theory is out the window. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they already complained enough about not going after McDaniel because he was still on the board. So that would have just made things worse had he, quote unquote, signed or agreed to become the offensive coordinator, and then he still looks elsewhere. I also thought it was weird that, he had that, but then Brian Flores also had okay, yeah, he's going to sign the contract, but he's still going to, if he doesn't get this job as the Steelers head coach, then he's going to come back with the Vikings. That was weird, for that to happen with two different coaches in the same cycle. Right? I mean, it's not typically the way things work.
It's not what you hear. I mean, I don't know if that's typically the way it works behind the scenes, but that's just not what you hear, right?
Yeah. How would you have reacted, Brian, if the Lions hired McDaniel and then he's still interviewed elsewhere? Would he
It
still
makes you
been
feel
your
like
guy?
Frank Ragnow is coming out of retirement, and then 2 days later he gets hurt. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah. Yep. Pull the rug out from underneath you. All right, Jacob. I want to get your thoughts on Kafka coming here. Just your initial thoughts when you saw the news came down, just how you felt.
When we talked about Kafka just in the OC role, right? It was like, I don't know. Obviously, he's got the experience. He was the interim head coach for New York. I didn't really love him as the offensive coordinator. And then, now we get Drew Petzing, which obviously, like Brian already said, and I think we all kind of felt a little underwhelmed about it. But now it's almost like, and he's just like a untitled offensive assistant right now, right? We don't even know for sure what his job title is going to be. But Drew Petzing specialized in the run game. Now you've got Kafka specializing in the pass game. So it's like the whole yin and yang kind of thing. I'm okay with it. It's going to be interesting to see, does he take, David Shaw's place? Is Scotty Montgomery going to leave and he's got to slide in one of these places? There's still more dominoes to fall here. I thought it was weird that he's just untitled offensive assistant for now. But, somebody with leadership, somebody with playing experience also, and somebody who's right on the cusp of being a head coach. And, you got to think maybe he's only going to be here for a year or so. He's probably just waiting out, he doesn't want to go to Cleveland, right? If that's your option, like, let's go to Cleveland right now or Arizona and have to play the Seahawks and the 49ers and the Rams. Like, no, I'll just go over here with the Lions for another year. I'm okay with it. I actually like the idea. I like that he adds another dimension to the team and I guess takes a little bit of the heat off Drew Petzing. It just makes the staff stronger, right? So I'm on board with it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, okay, I think the role not being established is probably just we're going to wait to see how our coaching staff finalizes, and then we'll give him his role. Because if Scotty leaves, he might get the assistant head coach role, like just get the title in there. So they're probably just don't want to play the gymnastics of like, okay, you're passing game coordinator, supervisor because David Shaw is still on the staff. Probably just want to wait, and then because they didn't even announce Drew Petzing until yesterday officially. Like that didn't come down. So the Lions tend to not go, too fast with this. They make sure everything is done so they don't have a Frank Ragnow situation, right? Where we're gonna get your hopes up and then all of a sudden it's dashed, right? You generally Lions are pretty slow, in announcing these moves. I'm happy about Kafka coming here. I think that eases a lot of my tensions that or my thoughts about Petzing coming here. We got Kafka could come in. He's obviously called plays just like Petzing. So we even might have, if Petzing doesn't work out, instead of going to Campbell, it could go to Kafka, right? So we might have like double protections against Campbell having to step into that role again. So that's my initial thought of how happy I am. I'm also, I look at what Kafka did to us when we played the Giants and like pulled all the tricks out of the bag. And I don't like to be a team that's all doing trick plays all the time, but I like that threat of that being there. So that I am excited about that.
I was just surprised because I mean, yes, the Browns are still there and the Cardinals are still there, but the Eagles are technically still there and the Bills are technically still there. I mean, there is a lot of OC positions still available that might be tempting for a guy like Mike, and being able to pull him in before those rosters or those staffing spots get filled is huge for us.
Yeah. What if a same situation we just talked about with Mike McDaniel? He's not the OC, so getting an OC might be considered an upgrade. I don't know if that. I don't know. I don't know if the Lions have to release him from the their contract. I'm not sure how the behind the scenes stuff is, but we could have a situation where he's made wanted on Buffalo, but I don't know if he'd want to go to Buffalo because Joe Brady might be still calling the plays there. I'm not really sure. I do want to talk about the Buffalo coaching situation because I think that's really weird. But before we get there, what do you think, Brian? What do you think about Drew Petzing? Do you think Drew Petzing puts something on his radar? Like, okay, I really, like we're talking about competition on the football field. This is definitely competition in the coaching room. So, what do you think? How Drew Petzing would take this?
I don't know. From what I hear, and I don't know Drew Petzing all that much other than the research that I've been doing, it sounds like he's a collaborative guy, a funny guy. He's able to, I mean, he's going to be the offensive line / running game is where his forte is, and I mean he's going to lean on that. I'm hoping he sees bringing in a guy like Mike Kafka could help him learn and grow and get better. And ultimately, he wants to be a head coach, or maybe he wants to stay as the Lions OC for a longer period of time. And that might be one of the reasons that he was more appealing to the Lions versus a guy like Mike McDaniel, or even a guy like Mike Kafka, who might have some bigger head coaching aspirations. So having both those guys might help us in the long run, that long term, because we might be able to hang on to a Drew Petzing for a couple, if not 3 years, and Mike Kafka might be a one and done kind of guy too. So,
What do you
I
think,
think-
Jacob?
Well, I think the only concern is that, let's say, Scotty stays. You've already got Hank Fraley. We don't know about David Shaw for sure, but that definitely strengthens the staff. But you also have to wonder at the same time, is this one of those situations where you have like too many chiefs? Like too many people that have an opinion about things, the way things are going. Not that I think that the Lions traditionally, we've been doing a pretty good job of that. But that's the only concern that I have, is that if there's too many differing opinions in the room, obviously Dan Campbell is going to be, the ruler. But that's my only concern, is that maybe too many people, too many high up people with, because if you get Kafka in here, you've got Petzing in here, Scotty Montgomery. These are all, well, David Shaw's already got head coaching experience, but these are all potential offensive coordinators or head coaches. Hank Fraley as well. Like, these could all be higher up coaches within the next couple of years. You hope that the staff works together and that, you just have the strong staff and that the offense meshes. But that's my only concern, is that maybe too many Chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah, I haven't really thought
Native
about that.
Americans,
That's a
Jacob.
great point.
Native Americans.
Native American, so I'm allowed to say that, Brian.
Guardians, Jacob.
I love it.
I haven't really thought about that, Jacob. That's a good point. I think ideally, I'm pretty sure you're going to vet this out in the interview process, whether you guys going to be collaborative or, you're hoping to vet that out, right? I mean, it's hard until you work exactly with someone or have prior experience with how a guy acts in a room. But yeah, that's a good thought. And everyone wants to put good tape out there. And, this is where I put my stamp on this offense, because if you're Petzing, you already interviewed for a head coach, last year. Kafka interviewed for the Titans head coach this year. So, I mean, you still want, you want to be able to put your name out there. Those guys want to advance. So that's a valid thought. I think you kind of mentioned already about this, Jacob, but do you think that this is that we hire Kafka in anticipation that we're going to lose Shaw or Montgomery?
It seems weird to do that, like just in anticipation, but also welcoming them back with open arms. But they've obviously had these discussions behind closed doors. So who's to say that we haven't already mutually agreed with David Shaw, like, to move on? And Scotty, obviously Scotty's always had those aspirations, and for him interviewing in Baltimore to be the offensive coordinator, which he would be great at, right? Like, what a good opportunity for Scotty. I don't want him to leave, but that just makes sense for him to do that too. So they had to have had those conversations, but I don't think that necessarily means that the writing's on the wall and that they're both going to be gone for sure.
What about you?
Do you
Brian?
agree? How you feeling, Brian?
I agree. I think that probably Shaw is one of the first probably to be out the door. His ties with Johnny Morton, his maybe not being a perfect fit for what we've had thus far. And so I can see Shaw being probably that first guy out, but Scotty, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, he has those aspirations. I think he's deserving. I think it's interesting that, we didn't give him the spot here in Detroit, but that he hopefully he has an opportunity somewhere else. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he didn't get the spot. We don't even know if he interviewed, really. I mean, they didn't announce that. We know that Shaw interviewed, but they never announced if Montgomery interviewed at all. So I think, I mean, Scotty's got head coach written all over, his demeanor. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like, for him to jump up there. But, getting a coordinator position is probably going to be the best, chance for him to move up to that. And, working with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that's pretty good offense to move over to. Get a couple good. Well, I don't know if Lively's come back, but you got Andrews over there. Real quick before we move on here, WMW2, he's always listening to us, and we appreciate that. So the Lions scored getting Kafka. It's a question how they assemble and if they all jive going into the season. Just kind of like what you guys said. We don't know how that's going to work. We didn't know how Morton was going to work. I think we had a lot of confidence going into the year. It was just going to keep on moving. I am really happy that we've gone outside of our own coaching tree to get these guys, though, to get those different voices in the room. I really think that is going to be useful for us, to grow and develop and, come up with some plays and some maybe concepts that kind of outside the box of what our thinking was last year. I think last year we had the thought, well, we had a good thing, let's keep it going. We realized that, we're going to need some different voices in the room. What do you think about that, Jacob?
Absolutely. We, had the mindset last year of like, let's just get this continuity. We're going to move Shep into defensive coordinator. We're going to bring Morton back. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We're going to keep the ball rolling here. And it kind of just collapsed on us. There were way more growing pains than we anticipated. Obviously, injuries played a part in that too. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. I like bringing in outside voices, just seeing things differently, right? Like if everybody in the room sees the same thing, that's what we're trying. It's not working. Sometimes it takes an outsider, a fresh set of eyes to be like, this is what I think could make things better. This is a different way to look at it.
With Petzing, I definitely want to get back to the running game, and I'm sure you're in that same boat, Brian, with me on that.
Yeah, but even with Petzing and wanting to get back to the run game, we got some holes we're going to need to fix and fill before that is even possible. So there's going to be a lot of dominoes to fall before we start getting into season.
Yes, 100%. But I think this signals that the Lions are going to get back to that. The hiring of Petzing and put in there, we're going to focus on the run game, and they know to do that. We cannot take the offensive position lightly. We're going to have to spend some money, put some talent there, whether that's some veteran talent or getting trade market. We saw what the Bears did in the trade market last year. That's an option. So a lot of things to develop here coming up in March when the season starts, or the off season starts for us. Real quick before we move on, I want to talk Kafka. If you're listening and you don't know, he comes from Andy Reid. He started under coaching underneath him. He started as quarterbacks coach and then did that for a couple of years. Then got up to passing game coordinator, moved over, got the offensive coordinator job under Daboll, and eventually moved up to assistant head coach and then interim head coach when Daboll was fired midseason. So getting the interim head coach tells me that he had the respect of that team. You don't move into interim head coaching unless the team's going to follow you. I mean, I'm sure that they start polling. They know what's going on in that locker room. They're going to talk to veteran leadership, who's the best guy to follow. So that's a good sign, and I like having another head coach-esque player, a coach on the sidelines. I always think that's good to have a coach that's seen the whole thing and look at like the team as a whole, as opposed to just the offense or just the defense. He's going to understand time management. I like all that stuff. So I'm encouraged by all that.
Just like Dan Campbell, right? I mean, Dan Campbell got the interim spot, I believe, in Miami, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Same sort of situation.
Yep. And then he did assistant head coach under Sean Payton. And, that's all, learned a lot of how he wants to run. It came from Parcells and Payton, those two guys. So excited to see how this is going to shape up. We really, it's going to be a while before we know, though. It's going to be a while because even when the season starts, we're not going to know.
I have a question for you guys, though. So we have all these moves that we're seeing on the offensive side of the ball. Kelvin Shepard, do we see a vet come in the coaching staff in order to help support Kelvin Shepard?
I want it. That's what I want, and I think we should. And I don't know why we didn't do that last year. To be honest with you, it seems like a big miss on our part.
You think we're reliant a little bit too much on Casey Rogers, coming in with some of that experience, that vet coach that could have helped support him, but I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, well, even with AG, we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, I think, Jacob, having, a senior consultant, Capers. We had John Fox on that staff. So I would not be surprised if when all these coaches things shake out. I think that's going to be something after all these. There's just so many head coaching jobs and just defensive coordinator. When all that shakes out, then there'll be someone that probably be on our radar. What do you think, Jacob?
Maybe McDermott wants to take a year off from being a head coach or coordinator, and he's just going to come be an assistant in Detroit. I'd be okay with that.
I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, that'd be all right. He probably come in, love the dome, right? Have to sit outside all the time. Buffalo, he'd be like, "Oh, this is great." All right. All right, let us move on to the offseason awards. We're not necessarily going to go player by player in these, so we're not going to get bogged down in details, but just anything that you guys are interested in, we could talk about. We're going to start here. Let me get this up on the screen. We're going to start here with the MVP. All quarterbacks except for Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey probably does not have a chance in hell of winning this award. So, Brian, who's your pick on that? I know we're not MVP. I think we'll throw a pick out there. I think it's pretty obvious who I would pick, but
I think it's pretty obvious. It's down to 2 at the very, very most, and Stafford probably ran away with it. So,
what do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I agreed. It was nice how it was kind of like a 2-man race towards the end. But Stafford just did too much. He deserved it. He earned it. Pains me to say. How do you feel about Stafford winning MVP?
How do I feel?
Yeah. Super Bowl.
I'm okay with it.
Won't get another Super Bowl this year, but
I'm happy that they're not in the Super Bowl. I've went on there that I just couldn't take that mentally, the Rams being that far, and I'm glad that Super Bowl is going to be stress-free for me. But Stafford getting this, I think this pretty much locks him for the Hall of Fame. I'd be shocked if he doesn't make the Hall of Fame now after getting this MVP, because that was, he obviously won the Super Bowl, which is really helps you get in there, and then getting an MVP that was just missing from his trophy case, and now it's there, and he deserves it this year. His stats were just unbelievable, but every game I caught of him, he's making unbelievably tight throws too. It also helps that Puka Nacua can catch everything, but he's in that wild card game where that touchdown throw to Parkinson was just unbelievable, and he made a similar throw in this last game too. His arm talent's unbelievable. We know that. It was like that. The shame thing is he was in Detroit so long that people didn't get to see this, and we saw this on the weekly. But he would also make a bonehead mistake here or there, but he was trying to win every game by himself.
Yes. Yeah, and this year, you look at 46 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's ridiculous.
Yes, yeah. I'm happy. I'm happy he's going to win this, and I'm also equally happy that he's not in the Super Bowl too. I'll have to listen to Kelly. All right, Defensive Player of the Year. I wonder who's going to win this award. It's shocking. It is nice to see Aiden's name in this 5, though. I will say that. So we could speak on that. What does that mean coming off the injury, Jacob, to you that Aiden Hutchinson made it in this top 5?
Oh, that's awesome for the team. It's awesome for Hutch to be able to come back. A lot of people were doubting his ability. Is he going to lose some of that edge that he has? Is he, the motor not going to be the same? And, we knew right from training camp that it was going to be, right? And he still didn't get a whole lot of help amongst the defensive line, and he still had an impact. Obviously not as much as Myles Garrett. I would be shocked if this was not a unanimous vote. And honestly, looking at this list, I think Hutch is probably maybe like 4th or 5th in the voting on here. I'm not sure, but it's awesome that he's a finalist. Some recognition for the work that he's put in.
There's no argument there. Yeah, it's awesome that Hutch is there just to be recognized, but Myles Garrett is the man. So
if you guys listen to Rod Allen when he was announcing for the Tigers, he'd always say for Miguel Cabrera, we need a different league for this guy. That's what I almost feel like from Myles Garrett. Like you just need a little higher up league for him. He's just unbelievable.
Can you imagine Myles Garrett though on like a good team?
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Right?
Oh man. I know that I don't know. He did it to himself, though. He could have got out there when he wanted, and he decided that the money is the most important thing to him. by signing those contracts and whatnot. He had his outs, but he's like, I'm never going to play there. Oh wait, you're going to give me $45 million a year? Yes, I'll play
Yeah,
there.
right. Never mind.
Exactly. All right, offensive player of the year, which is always weird to me because feels like this should be the same people as the MVP, but it's not. I don't know.
Remember, MVP is quarterback. Offense player of the year is where they
But
can pick
Drake
somebody
May's
else.
in here. That's what I don't understand.
Because
How does
they're not
Drake May?
they're not going to give him MVP. We'll put him in
Yeah.
both of these to make him feel better. He's not going to get off. He's not going to get this either.
Yeah. So I think these names are interesting. JSN, from the beginning of the year, you would have never thought that JSN would have been on here. Drake May would probably be in that category. Christian McCaffrey only because of the injury. So that's pretty amazing. But I think you could imagine that Puka Nacua and Bijan would have been in here. Who, if you had to vote, Jacob, who would you take out of these 5 for Offensive Player of the Year?
For me, I think it would come down to Puka or JSN. And I also think if you're looking at, the team around you and who's throwing you the ball and all the different factors, plus coming out of nowhere, I think I would vote for JSN.
Okay.
That's what I was going for too, man. I mean, the guy's, 17, almost 1,800 receiving yards. The guy's a stud this year.
Christian McCaffrey had a really, really nice year, and
yes,
and he could be on that list. If it was up for me, I'd probably be between Puka and Christian McCaffrey. JSN, I don't know how could I not vote for JSN too, but Puka, I just made some amazing catches. Now that's coming after JSN made that one-handed grab against the sideline. Now, did you realize that was a no-looker from Sam Darnold too? It was. Watch the replay. Sam Darnold's looking in the middle of the field and throws that no look. That was a crazy play. I got to know what he's got on his glove for him to snag it like that, because it just stopped. It didn't even move. It just stopped in his hands. It's crazy. Yeah. So we're all in agreement. Drake May doesn't get this award. Okay, good. All right. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think at the beginning of the year and probably halfway through the year, Emeka Egbuka was just going to run away with this award. At some point, I think Tatora McMillan kind of maybe overshadowed him or overtook it here. Travion Henderson looked really, really good this year too. Any thoughts on this, Brian?
I was the Tet McMillan guy, so I mean, most of any NFL rookie receiver in 2025 and set up a Panthers franchise record in receiving. I think it's his.
Yep. What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, and for the Panthers to kind of turn it around and come back and win that division, that's awesome. And for me, anyway, this was a year that this is no one's running away with this award. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if any of the guys on this list got it, right? I don't think that there's necessarily a clear cut. I think probably McMillan or Henderson would be above anybody else on here, but if I had to vote for this one, I would also go with McMillan.
Yeah.
I think Henderson's just overshadowed a bit by Rashad Stevenson, and I think that takes away a little bit of his shimmer and shines.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Tyler Shough looked good too, and Saints played better this year than I expected them to. So it might be that division they're playing in, but that they needed some help down in New Orleans because they're in cap hell and they're stuck there. So maybe they got something in their quarterback. We'll see. Jackson Dart needs to learn to slide, or get out of bounds. He's not going to last too long if he doesn't do that.
He still thinks he's untouchable.
Yeah,
he's exciting though. That Giants team is going to be interesting moving forward here.
I know, with Harbaugh. The thing is that the Giants were in so many games this year and they lost. So they're closer than people think based on their record, and getting Harbaugh in there, maybe, regardless of what you think about Harbaugh, he's definitely raised the floor. At least, you're going to be a technically sound team. You're going to be a well-run team, but we'll see. They still have the GM there, so he's still the ones making the pick. So we'll see how that works out. All right. defensive rookie of the year. Could have used some of these guys on our team. But Nick Imanowarrior is I've been really impressed with him this year. But all the Browns fans will say Carson Schlesinger deserves it. So do you got any thoughts, Jacob?
I would agree with what you just said with the Browns fans. I think Carson Schlesinger, the same as the offensive rookie of the year thing for me, though. It's like, man, there's just not anybody that ran away with it. But I think Schlesinger was a starter pretty early on, right? And was like kind of an
Yes.
impact player for the defense, where the rest of these guys maybe had some growing pains. It kind of hurts to see Emin Warrior over there because that's somebody that we had our eye on that we were maybe hoping would come to the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. Abdul Carter also up and down, but was an impact player. Same could be said for James Pierce. So if I had a vote here, I would go with Carson.
Yeah, that's what I think. Where are you at, Brian?
Same. Yeah,
Yep.
146 tackles. Jacob, you're right. I mean, he started 16 of the 17 games, so the guy was a stud.
Yep, it's good. Well, the Browns had so
Second
many
round
draft
pick.
picks.
Second round pick
Yeah.
too. So I mean, you got that going for him.
Exactly. They had so many picks in there in Cleveland. So and no one wants to coach them, but they'll play.
Yeah. What
All
round was
right.
Xavier Watts drafted in? Now,
don't
because I
know.
just said that, and I think he might have been a third rounder. Yes, third round, 96th overall, Xavier Watts.
We could use the safety, maybe. We're going to find out. All right. Cutback player of the year. Our boy Aiden's on here. We were hoping he'd be on here at the beginning of the year, just because that means he had a solid year, and obviously he's on there. But there's some really other deserving players on this list too. You'd say Trevor Lawrence came back. They won their division. Christian McCaffrey, is in the offensive player of the year. So much like Aiden in defensive player of the year, Christian McCaffrey made it all the way back. Dak Prescott had a heck of a season. And then Stephon Diggs is up there. I think he's definitely running fifth in this list, and his off the field stuff might just eliminate any votes that he had going for him. So Brian, do you think Aiden walks away with this, or do you think it's going to go to someone else on the list?
This is the one where Christian gets it and runs away with it. So I mean, the guy played all 17 games. I mean, he was a weapon in the passing and running game. I mean, he was vital. I mean, the guy he's up for MVP. I mean, he's not a quarterback, but this is probably the one that they're going to give it to him.
I think so. What do you think, Jacob?
Yep, 100% agree. I don't know. This is another one that I kind of feel like should be unanimous. Like I could see Trevor Lawrence, Dak. I could see obviously being impartial, Hutch maybe getting a vote, but not. I mean, McCaffrey was on another level. He played in like 4 games last year, right? To be able to come back and play like he did and lead the 49ers like he did, he deserves this one.
I'd say especially at the running back position too. Like it seems, he's had injuries throughout his career, but when he had the injury that he had last year, I thought, oh man, he's not going to be explosive anymore. You're going to see degradation. No, he came back stronger. So pretty amazing. We'll see if he breaks down next year, but
well, yeah, because he was a top 10 running back and a top 10 receiver this year. So might have been top 5 receiver. Like crazy work.
I know. Yep. All right. Coach of the year. I think this is interesting.
Boom.
Our old friend Ben Johnson's on there. You got Liam Cohen, Duval. Can't believe he's on there. I didn't think there was any chance. We made fun of him so much. I know. Did you like it?
Yeah. Have you been practicing that?
I'm just so much of a douche that it just comes out natural like that.
I believe that. Oh man.
Mike McDonald, Seattle Seahawks. You got Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers and Vrabel. So 2 of the coaches on this list are in the Super Bowl, which this gets voted before the playoffs, so that playoff structure doesn't matter. So Jacob, if you were going to give the award to one of these 5 coaches, who would you give it to?
I would give it to Vrabel. Being able to turn around the Patriots right away the way that he did. Very impressive. Obviously, like you said, they voted before. They don't know that they're going to the Super Bowl, but just the fact, that he did what he did with them in 1 year, in my opinion, just outweighs anybody else. Liam Cohen, also impressive. Ben Johnson, kind of impressive that they, won all those close games. And, I definitely think Vrabel should win this, though.
Wow. Where are you at, Brian?
Same. I mean, I'm a Vrabel guy too. I love that guy. And the way he was able to, what were they, 3-14 last year or for the last 2 seasons, and then now a Super Bowl appearance. I mean, the guy flipped it, and he did so quickly. So,
Yeah.
I
I'd
mean,
say,
not to say that the other guys aren't deserving. I mean, even Kyle Shanahan dealt with, like, how many injuries did that guy have to deal with and still be able to make it, in the divisional round. So,
True, but then they didn't care for Dan Campbell when that happened with us.
That's-
They,
Right.
voters didn't give us any love.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. We went 15-2 with, I would say, equal amount of defensive injuries that we suffered last year. Hutch and Aleem going down is pretty equal to what they had, and we won our division, won the conference. Yeah, so that throws Kyle Shanahan out for me, just because if he gets it, then I'm going to be really, really, really upset. I, I I'm going to be more in the Mike McDonald category, just of how the vote's going to go down. You started the year with Sam Darnold as your quarterback. You're looking in the division. You had the Rams on top. We saw, and the 49ers are up there. That was a tough division, and for them to come and win that division, be the number one seed. Not only was their offense good, and then Sam Darnold come in, their defense was really, really good throughout the whole season. So I lean more for Mike McDonald. Uh, Vrabel, you could argue that schedule was a little easier, I guess, if you're going to count against it. But what they both did is amazing this year. No one, I would have never predicted a Seattle and New England Super Bowl. I wonder what the odds on that Super Bowl pick before the year. It had to be a very long shot. That would have been amazing. And no, I'm not voting for Ben Johnson. There's too many comeback lucky, just stuff that happened, and that's regardless of his Lions history. It has nothing to do there. There was just so much luck involved with that season, and getting a plus 22 in the turnovers. Those fluctuates a lot. So that played a lot in there. And then Liam Cohen deserves it. I mean, you think about they win their division, right? And they did without Travis Hunter most of this year, right? I mean, their number 2 pick is injured, and that was going to be their big playmaker on both offense and defense. So that surprised the heck out of me that he did that. But yeah, if I'm voting, Mike McDonald's my guy. All right. We don't have to really get into too much assistant coach of the year. The only thing I have thoughts on here, Josh McDaniels is an idiot. I don't like him. And
Yeah.
Brian Flores needs to just get out of our division. Why couldn't he get the Steelers job? That really upsets me.
That made a lot of sense, right? He should have. And then the Steelers go, how do you think Steelers fans probably feel when they almost had Brian Flores and now they get Mike McCarthy? Like, oh, man, they've got to be mad.
I know. Going from Tomlin to McCarthy just would be so uninspiring.
Yeah,
And then the
right?
whole report are like, it may bring Aaron Rodgers back. Are you excited about that? Why would you be excited about that?
Mike
Yeah.
McCarthy's excited about that. Why wouldn't he bring him back?
Just get the whole gang back together. Bring all the same players from that Packers team and let them burn.
Continue.
Oh.
Hey, he's got to do Steelers thing, just above mediocrity, and have a winning season. And I think Mike McCarthy's the perfect guy for that job.
True.
All right.
I thought it was weird for the assistant coach of the year. Like, the guys on this list all did great, and we don't know if Kubiak's going to get a head coaching spot yet. But I mean, like Jesse Minter, he got the head coaching position. He's not a finalist for assistant coach. Robert Saleh for the 49ers. I mean, some of the high profile guys are not on there.
Saleh not being on there is criminal. If you're going to put Kyle Shanahan in the coach of the year, how could you not put Saleh on there when you lose Bosa and Fred Warner from your defense?
Right.
And you still play really good defense. I don't understand it. Yeah. All right. That's it for the off-season awards. Hopefully we have more Lions like in the MVP talk next year that we can really get into it, or the offensive player of the year. I'd like to see Gibbs get a shot in there, or JMO. If you get the yardage up, get the touchdowns up, we might be able to see him. All right. I want to talk about what was announced today about the Pro Bowl, and specifically Shador Sanders making the Pro Bowl.
You don't want to talk about Jared Goff?
Well, I do want to talk about that, but that makes sense. What I want to talk about is what doesn't make sense, and that is Shador Sanders making the Pro Bowl. I wanted to barf, but I didn't. Jacob, when I sent you, did you know about it before I sent you that text about Shador Sanders? You knew about it? Okay.
Well, I saw the alert. I was at work, like I saw the alert, and I think you sent it to me not long after. But then you and JJ, my son, had both sent it to me at the exact same time. I was like, what the heck? Like, obviously, right away, I went to Tyler Hundley and that whole debacle. And then, when I had a minute, tried to do some more research and try to see if I could find out, like, did Trevor Lawrence turn it down, or like how many people had to go through this list before they gave to Shador. And none of that is public, right? You have as of right now, I don't think that there's any reasoning. You don't have anybody confirmed to turn it down. Trevor Lawrence was the alternate, and now all of a sudden you got Sanders moving on to the Pro Bowl. So my guess is that they went down the list. A couple of these people turned it down, and then they just decided to go with Sanders. Same situation as Huntley. Maybe they were like, we need a little bit of spark. We need to keep things alive. Let's just put him in here. Just wild, crazy to me. I'm assuming you guys were just as shocked, right?
Just as shocked. But here we are talking about it, right? So this is exactly what the NFL wants.
100%.
Right.
It really makes me upset. All right, Jacob, I looked it up, the Shador Sanders and the Dylan Gabriel stats. So, you got them there. Do you want to go over those real quick so we could, argue if Dylan Gabriel should have made it over Shador Sanders?
I already went away from their record, but Shador Sanders, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, pass rating of 68.1. Dylan Gabriel, 937 yards, also 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, rating of 80.8. And I think Dylan Gabriel, I want to say off the top of my head that he went like 1-5 maybe, and then Shador Sanders went 3-4.
3-4, yep. So
and that is the Pro Bowl worthy quarterback, 3-4, more interceptions than touchdowns. Rookie, it's weird because teams all throughout the draft, the teams didn't want him. There was the uproar. Like, okay, the NFL, like the owners are like talking, they just don't want Sanders on a team. And, you have Mel Kiper getting on there like all fiery and everything like that. And this guy's a round 1 talent. It's like nobody wanted him. The Browns get him. They don't play him during training camp. There's that whole thing. And then all of a sudden it's like they gave Dylan Gabriel just a quick chance there. And then they move on to Shador, who didn't do anything to keep the job, right? Like, I mean, what did he really do where you're like, okay, yes, this is the quarterback of the future here. Didn't really do anything. And now here we are, the NFL's rewarding with a Pro Bowl. That's like making Bronny James All-Star reserve, right? I mean, why? What have you done? That's why people don't take the Pro Bowl seriously. And I think 100%. If the league is trying to make it, they're trying to make it flashier, they're trying to make it more interesting, they're going to put Shador in there. You've done the opposite. You've made it even more of like a mockery, right? They don't take it seriously as it is. The players don't play very hard in it. The Pro Bowl games are actually cool, like the dodgeball and the different things they do. I actually kind of like that, but it's a joke.
Can we leave the Manning brothers at home and bring primetime in for one of the coaches?
Yeah, why not, right?
That was going to be my question, whether Deion's celebrating this Pro Bowl pick. Like, he's like, I told you all, he's going to be, we've already retired his number at Colorado, and now he's a Pro Bowler in his first year.
Yeah, retired his number. That's right.
Yeah. I texted my Browns fan, and, just like, you guys finally got yourself a Pro Bowl quarterback, and yeah, nice laugh on that. It's just unbelievable. I just couldn't believe when I saw it, and I think it's all about, he's going to be there. People will be like, oh, I got to watch, I'll have to watch the quarterback competition because Shador will be there. And
I'm so interested in that. Like the accuracy competitions that they put him through. Is he even going to hit anything? I mean, is it?
Yeah, right.
He's going to hit the mascot off the side.
Yeah. It'd be like the replacements or something like that. Yeah. That'll be
He might, but he'll have the biggest chain on that you've ever seen before in your life, I'm sure.
That's true. So like how far do you think he got down? Like how that's a good point that you made earlier, Jacob. How far are the quarterbacks that they get through that till they're like, we know Shador is going to say yes, but let's get through these other guys first. He's our fail. He's like your safe college. He's the fail safe. Like that's the yes school. They knew Shador was going to say yes. All right, boys. Let's move on let's talk a little bit about the championship games this week. With Jacob and I will go through our picks, and we'll just talk about some interesting stuff from the games. It's really fun weekend of watching football. Fun Sunday at least of watching football. Jacob, Patriots, Broncos. Both of us picked the Patriots. I said that was going to be a close game, and it was close. And I don't think it was just because of the weather. So, were you watching the whole game, Jacob? Because I worked at the beginning part of it. So, did you see? Were you watching everything, or
It was not. I was watching the game. I was doing
okay?
other things on that Sunday, so I was not,
Yeah,
tuned into every single play. But
yeah,
that first drive, I have a friend who's a Broncos fan, and after that first drive, I was like, I think maybe they're okay. If Stidham, or it was a second drive, but if it's like if he can just command the offense, get the ball out, and just not make any mistakes, maybe they could move the ball, and maybe they can have a Nick Foles type situation. And then they just never had another good drive almost the rest of the right after when they didn't go for the points that went for it, it was like all downhill.
yeah. I'm going to ask you both about that. We talked about he wasn't going to be able to have to. He's going to have didn't have to play a perfect game, but he couldn't make a catastrophic mistake. And that the backwards pass was catastrophic. It led to the Patriots' only touchdown. So, Brian, what do you think of the game?
I'm a defensive minded guy. I loved it. I mean, if you put Bo Nix back into that Broncos quarterback spot, that could be the difference maker. I mean, Stiddy did his best, but he made the poor decisions there towards the end. And not only that, but you look at Sean's decision to go for it on that fourth down. I mean, knowing that the weather is gonna turn, or maybe you didn't know. So I love the defensive side of that game.
Yeah. What'd you think, Jacob? I don't know if you were watching at the point where he went for it on fourth down, 4th and 1, easily makeable field goal. They were up 7-0 at that point. Would have went up 10-0. Um, we've had the whole Dan Campbell discussion about going for it on fourth down. You know when to do it, when not to do it. I know hindsight's always 2020 when we talk about these things. What do you think about it, Jacob? Do you think
You
going up
know,
by 2 touchdowns was worth it at that point?
I think it was. You're on. It's so early in the game. I mean, the weather. You have the weather being a factor, but you're not thinking about that necessarily at that time. I think the play call was not good, but I think that they said that they had a certain play. They called timeout. They looked at it. They decided to call a different play. They went with a pass, and it just didn't turn out. It was well defended by the Patriots, but that's huge because at that point, the Broncos defense is just all over New England, right? They can't do anything. They're in Drake May's face. They were just playing almost flawless on defense, really, to that point. So I think that's a huge momentum swing. They're at home, right? They're in Denver. That's huge to go up 14-0 there. Hindsight, they probably should have ran the ball. They should have called a different play and went with it there. But I think it was the right decision to go for it and try to pour it on and put the pressure on.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he look at look at the crystal ball and see what the weather's going to do, and in the second half, he'd be like, man, going up by more than one score is vital here. But it all really comes out to City turning it over and then basically handing them a touchdown. That doesn't happen. It doesn't even matter about that field
Right.
goal because they're going to win that game. My next question is, our buddy Jeremy Reisman hates snow games. He doesn't like that, especially in the playoffs. So what's your feeling about Brian? Do you like that affecting a playoff game? Do you think it should be indoors where you're going to have a neutral play, at least a even playing field? Or should weather be a factor in these games?
I love it. I mean, whether they're playing in the mud and the snow and the rain, you got to deal with the elements. I love it, and you have to adjust. What kind of team are you? You have to be well rounded. You can't just rely on one aspect. You look at what the Patriots have. They have 3 phases of really solid football. Look at the Seahawks. They have 3 phases of really solid football, and there were some weaknesses that went into the other 2 teams. And it didn't matter at that point that it snowed and nasty and nobody could move the ball more than 20 yards in a drive in that fourth quarter. The Patriots had those 3 phases of football. They played solid and they won that game. So
What do you think, Jacob? You like
Yeah,
weather being a factor?
We've talked about this before. I'm the opposite. I want our best to beat you at your best. I want the best football possible, and you just don't get that when there's that type of weather. I'm all for like some of these games that are later in the year. I don't mind seeing like the wind or like the snow and the different things like that. I just think when it comes to the playoffs, this is a 10-7 game. If you're inside of a dome, maybe it's still a 10-7 game, but it looks way different, right? The quality of football is better. I absolutely, I can't imagine the Super Bowl being, in that type of weather like that. And then that's determining whoever's the champion based on, weather. And, like Brian said, you do have to adjust, and it's not one way or the other. It's not like one team gets the snow, the other team doesn't. You're all playing in the same thing. Kind of like when they complain about Comerica Park. It's like everybody's playing at the same ball field. It's not like we move the wall back, when it's your turn to bat. So I get that aspect of it, but I would prefer playoff football be played indoors in warm weather. Absolutely.
And let me ask you this then: does the home field advantage? Should we play at a neutral site because the crowd noise and the unbalance of power that goes along there that comes in as a factor as well?
But then you make the regular season irrelevant. That's why you play the regular season. That's why their seeding is for home field advantage. I don't think that. In this situation, like New England's also a cold weather team. It was cold in New England. It was cold in Denver. Had they played in New England, there'd have been a foot of snow before the game even started. It's not like maybe like when Miami had to go up to, was it Buffalo or wherever Miami went, where Miami went from 70-degree weather to -4. Maybe that's something where it's like even more of an advantage for the home field. But no, I don't. The neutral site for the Super Bowl, absolutely, because then you've got AFC, NFC. But you would make the regular season not matter if you were just going to make the playoffs on a neutral site.
I agree, but that's just another one of those factors, those intangibles that you have to, take into consideration when we're having these two teams play. And Denver should have been able to utilize the advantage there. I know that both sides are cold weather teams, but Denver's at home. Get that crowd going. Don't lose the momentum. Have that crowd backing you all the way through in order to be a factor.
It also didn't help that once the snow hit, Patriots are wearing white. That kind of turned out bad for the Broncos there.
Yes. Yeah, you got hidden defenders all over. But I also think that had to work against Drake May, too, trying to throw anything. Like,
absolutely,
it's hard to see.
Well, I don't think they really threw a whole lot, right? They stuck to the run, which is kind of what you have to do.
Yeah. Well,
every time I think of snow, hang on, sorry. Every time I think of snow, I go back to Shady McCoy. I go back to that Eagles-Lions game, and I just hate it. I'm like, forget playing in the snow, man.
Yeah, that was a bad line sign. I just remember Calvin Johnson just getting thrown in the snow and his face mask just full of
snowball.
Snow.
Yeah,
just snow. Yeah, crazy. All right, let's move on to the next game. Rams Seahawks. Jacob, you and I both picked the Seahawks. That was a really good game. I really enjoyed watching this game. Weather did not impact this, but I think the 12 did impact this game. They. Seattle used that home field advantage that they earned. I think that's the difference that you guys are talking about. Like, you earned that home field advantage, and you could use that however you want. Weather's kind of independent, just gets thrown in there. But what did you guys think about Stafford in that game? He played lights out and still lost. And then as Darnold in the playoffs, has that surprised you? Because we saw what he did last year, right? It's like the last 2 games melted down. He looks poised to me in both the playoff games I've seen him play. So talk about Stafford and Darnold, and then I got some other questions about the game for you guys.
You want to take it first, Brian?
Darnold has grown. Darnold, he took his lumps last year, and he has learned from his mistakes, and he's grown. That guy, he seemed, like you said, poised. He is able to he's going to lead his team to a championship right now. So,
It's crazy. Darnold was the difference maker, though. He did not crack under pressure, and the pressure elevated late in the game. And especially like for McDonald to have as much confidence in Darnold as he did, that it's like, hey, you know what? I know we want to run out the clock here, but we want to finish this thing off, and to let Darnold throw the ball those couple times, and to have the success that they did there too, just speaks volumes for that. But Darnold pretty much had to play a very clean, almost perfect game for them to be able to come away with this win, and he did. Right? He went toe to toe with Stafford. Darnold had 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Stafford, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. This was the kind of football that I'm talking about. And had they been playing in a foot of snow, Brian, this doesn't happen.
It makes you, have to rely on a Kenneth Walker or Kyron Williams, and who's going to come out on top in that regards. Who's going to be? It's going to be a battle of the O lines and the D lines, and you put those into play. So this is not just
it's almost a different game. Right,
it is
right.
100%. It takes Darnold and Stafford a little bit out of it, and you put relying on the rest of your team. That's why there's 11 guys on the field. That's why there's 3 phases, and that's why the Rams lost this game. I mean, that fumbled or muff punt, it was a difference maker, huge turning point in this game. So
yeah, and all season the Rams, either getting their field goals blocked, or its special teams has been bad for them all year, and I think that's when you listen to Dan Campbell with Lions, that we play all 3 phases. And I know our special teams was not dynamite this year. I think it got better in the second half of the year compared to the first half of the year. But this is why, because a play like that, like you said, Brian, changed the whole outcome of that game, because the quarterbacks are playing lights out. I was still holding my breath when Darnold threw that touchdown to Bobo. I was like, I thought it was going to be intercepted, and it just fell in his arms. I was like, oh my God, because I just keep thinking Stafford or Darnold's going to make a mistake, and he didn't. He played lights out. It was impressive football.
Right,
All right.
sure.
I want to ask you, Jacob, about this. There was a DPI on this game that was not called on Rashid Shaheed on the sidelines, where they just shoved him. They questioned whether it was catchable. I certainly think it was catchable. Do you like, how do the Rams keep getting away with DPI in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game? It's crap.
They have a history of that. They're paying off the refs. No, I mean, it brings up what we just talked about with the game before. I know I can't remember. It was in the Bears game, right? Where it was just like, I don't know how you call pass interference in that situation. And there's some tough times where it's like, it looks like it should be PI, but they're going to let him play, or they're not going to let him play. Pass interference on defense is broken. It's broken in general, but I mean, like, they can't seem to get it right. It's not reviewable, so they just kind of have to go with the field. They let it go. You've got some really bad ones, like the Saints, obviously the worst one of all time, but I don't understand it anymore.
Yeah. It angers me that it's not reviewable, because he 2-hand shoves him right in the back on the sideline. So, Brian, did you think it was catchable? Should have been DPI?
They glossed over that so quick. They said, it's not catchable, and they moved on really quickly. They didn't replay it very much. I mean, they were just trying to cover themselves. It was a blatant DPI.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if you start to slow this down and review these plays, I mean, it's gonna change the whole dynamic of the game. It could be every play that there's been hands-on or hand fighting, and what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. I get it in the playoffs. You're going to let these guys play a little bit more than you would early on. I wish it would be like that all the way through the season, where you're letting the defense at least play a position without having, you touch a guy and it's illegal contact or holding or DPI. And I mean, it's an offensive geared game in the regular season. They want points, they want excitement, but in the playoffs they let the guys play a little bit more, and I can appreciate that. I thought it was a DPI. I thought it was pretty blatant. I thought it was catchable, but they've been letting the guys play the whole game.
Yeah. Your 2-hand shove a guy in the back, though. I mean, that's about as blatant as you're going to get. There's no hand fighting there. He just jagged him in the back. So that made me mad. But one play that I thought was crazy was Wool again, doing the taunting penalty. That was like a third and, I don't know, what was that, 3rd and 13, something like that.
3rd and 12?
It was third double digits. I know that. And then he, gets a pass breakup and then just goes to the sideline. Jacob, do you think taunting should have been called there Or do you think you take into consideration how important that call is for the game, or shouldn't it matter? They should just call it if taunting's taunting.
I hate the taunting thing this year too. But I mean, if you're Tariq Woolen, obviously you're fired up after the play. They kind of let him, they let him do more than what normally they let him do. You can't be over there on their sideline just, going off on them. Say,
Yeah.
if you want to say, lockdown, whatever you're going to be talking your crap to them, then you go back to your sideline. You can't stand there for however long it had been and just be yelling at them. That was a situation where it almost seemed like the ref maybe didn't want to have to throw the flag, but it was like, I have to. You can't not in that situation then because he made it so blatantly obvious. And then it's way worse that it happened on that third down. And then it makes it even worse that Puka scores on the next play. It's just a terrible, had they not won that game, they're wanting Woolen off the team. I'm sure the Seahawks fans are going crazy.
Yep. What do you think, Brian? Would you call taunting there?
Yeah, he had to call. I mean, he was shuffling down the sidelines for like 15 yards.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Go celebrate with your team. Go, do your celebration away from. Let them know that you're there. Let them know that you guys are winning this game. Let them know that you're the best. But at the same time, go celebrate with your guys.
Yeah. I think some of those guys on the Rams sideline suckered him into that, and they were talking trash back, and he couldn't walk away from it. He just,
he didn't.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, just mentally, he couldn't do it, man. It was
true.
I was
it's a
so
big
mad.
moment. Adrenaline's flowing and everything. Like, at least that is justifiable, and it's not like he got up and flexed, and then they just threw the flag right away.
Yeah,
because I hate that. Or it's like, oh, he looked at him menacingly, so we're gonna call this penalty. Like,
yeah,
it's so soft. But this one, they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I was just so mad in the moment because I really wanted the Seahawks to win that game, and I was like, oh my god, this gives them the open door, and luckily it didn't matter in the end of the game. But in the moment, it should have been called. You're right. He was goaded into it, but he was trying to let them know who was boss, and I'd be super excited in that moment too. But you got to know that you can't be selfish in that moment. You need to go to your sideline and talk all the crap you want over there to your teammates. But yeah, you could see the ref letting him go, and then finally it was like, I gotta throw a flag in this. Oh god, terrible. All right. So we'll talk next week about the Super Bowl matchup and who our picks are going to be there. One thing before we leave, the Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame. I want to know your guys' opinion on that. So if you don't know, it came out today that Bill Belichick will not make it into the Hall of Fame on the first year that he's eligible on the ballot. He was required to get 80% of the votes, which means there's 50 people that vote. He had to get at least 40 votes. So it means over 10 people did not think that he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, at least on this ballot. So, Brian, what's your thoughts on that?
I think if you had a Mount Rushmore of NFL coaches, I mean, he's on there, right? And that's what's crazy.
Yes, it's maddening. Jacob, you think the cheating scandals did this? What do you think? Was the reason why he's not in there?
Maybe. I guess that's an angle to look at it. I don't. There's not a good reason. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, right? And I don't know exactly how this vote works, but I mean, I think it's a yes, no. It's not like, hey, I had to use my vote elsewhere, right? Like, this is not one of those limited things. You're just like, hey, is he in or out? And you need 40 out of 50 votes. Did it say how many he got or how many he fell short by?
It did not say. It says that he didn't make it. So the thing is, 11 or more people did not vote for him this time.
Right. Yeah. No, insane. I don't know if it's just, maybe the voters are people that he's made angry in the past. It's like Survivor, people that he's cut off, and now they have to vote for him to win. And they're like, no, I don't think so. There's some rumors going around, certain politics and certain things like, I saw online, it said like Bill Polian had a hand in keeping him out, or like they punished Kraft, like they didn't let Kraft in the Hall of Fame right away. So now they're going to punish Belichick for the Spygate and the stuff like that. I mean, I guess that would make sense or put a reason on it, but it just doesn't. There's just no need. Obviously, like his accolades speak for themselves. He's been around long enough. He's met the requirements. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's dumb too. Well, and Robert Kraft moved on like to the next round. He's he's a finalist or whatever. And I don't know if anything had to do with his team doing well this year without either Belichick or Brady, but it's ridiculous that he didn't make it. I know that they had the cheating thing, but he's won so many Super Bowls. Even that as a coordinator, he's won 2 additional Super Bowls as a coordinator. The guy's been around championship teams his whole career. It's blew my mind when I saw that he didn't make it.
Yeah, maybe this is more like the Baseball Hall of Fame than we thought. So I said before, we just talked about that and how they're way into the steroids and the different things and making people wait a year or two for things that happened, or not being unanimous when they obviously should be unanimous, not being first ballot when they obviously should be first ballot. All that stuff happens for Baseball Hall of Fame, but not typically like this for football. So this is just really weird.
Yep.
How would you feel if this comes out? Like, let's say they announce that he only got like 10 out of the 50 votes that he needed. Would you be like, okay, yeah, something's up. They did something to him.
Up.
I mean, it's got to come down to that cheating stuff. And so I think that if you read the Bill Polian thing, it would come from an anonymous source, but it was essentially that they didn't think that he deserved to go on the first ballot Hall of Fame. And, that is related to the baseball stuff with the steroid scandal. I mean, those guys are being punished outside of just the first year. But there are certain people that don't believe that you should be in a first ballot, like somehow that is, some sort of sacred ground. However, Bill Belichick, you could say, would he have done it without Brady? We don't know. They were together. They were a team. They won those Super Bowls. And not only that, they were super competitive in pretty much every season, winning division after division. Yeah, he should have been in first ballot, and there should be not even a question. That's why it's so shocking. That's why we're talking about it.
First ballot or not, I mean, you deserve it or you don't, right? I mean, it's over with. Like you said, I don't know.
But if you're just going to
they
go
just think
into,
they're better than you by being first ballot versus waiting till second. I mean, he could be second ballot. Doesn't change the fact that he's got more Super Bowls than pretty much anyone else in there. He's like second in wins, right? I mean, he's like towards the top of any stat you could possibly pull up.
Yes. No. And I mean, and also you could say he did it in an era which it was very difficult to consistently win in the parity of the NFL. Like you just had teams that we saw it this year. There was only one repeat division winner, this whole season. So there's people coming from last place up to first place. It was very difficult in the salary cap era to keep a team like that together. I think Brady had a lot to do with that, accepting the contracts that he did. And I think that, there's, especially Brady going and winning it with the Bucks, puts it more in the Brady camp rather than the Belichick camp. But they were a team unit. And I think that if you're looking at anybody in the history of this game, he's definitely, he should be in the first ballot. I just don't think the cheating stuff outweighs that, because I think everyone kind of does stuff like that. And just Belichick was caught. And I think Belichick rubs people the wrong way in a lot of things he does. So people look for things to punish him.
Right. So I said, if you're not well liked by those voters that are in that room, if you got a couple people that hate you, then, All
right, Brian, tell us, before we take off here, tell us what you got going on at Petzing, where people can catch you, and what else you got going on.
Yeah, Passing Time Pod, Detroit Lions Talk. We're on YouTube. If you look down here, you can see my little tag there on YouTube. We're also on TikTok and Instagram a little bit there. We dabble, if you will. But it's just a buddy of mine, Rob, and I, who like Detroit Lions. We're fans. We're not insiders. I'm an educator, so we talked about the passing of time in the hallways, and I always was talking with a buddy about the Detroit Lions, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is what I want to do, and so we dive into it weekly and throw out as much content as we can, and I like to hang out with guys like Jason and Jacob here. So if you have it in you, come check us out and give us a little like and subscribe. So
yeah. I encourage you guys to do that. I'll link it in the description below so you could check that out. So, Jacob, you got your kids' basketball game tomorrow, Milo's game, right? So, you're head coach.
Practice on Wednesdays. Right. The games are Sundays.
Games are Sundays. Okay.
Yes,
so, how did he do in his last game?
Last game we actually won. We lost the first two. We won the last one, so that was good. Starting to come together as a team a little bit, but this is third and fourth grade basketball, so we practice on Wednesday.
fun.
I set up,
So
you know,
fun.
some little plays, teach them how to do some picks and different stuff like that. And by the time Sunday rolls around, they're like, what does that mean? I don't know what you're talking about. And then, you know, there's way too much grandmas in the crowd and they're waving to grandma and it's like, rebound. Like, you know, I have a lot of patience for stuff like that. So it doesn't get to me, but obviously I want to win. So, and I want them to do well. And they've been doing better.
Yeah. Jacob has a lot of patience, and that's why he could deal with me over here, constantly mispronouncing things or, you know, doing whatever I do over here. Jacob, my parting shot before I leave here is if I'd have known the Lions were going to hire so many bald guys, I would have put my hat in the ring. I would have just been like, actually, I would have taken my hat off, put it in the ring so they could see I was bald, and then maybe I would have had a shot. I mean, I'll take equipment manager. I'll do anything just to
I
get
think it's
down
an
there.
attention grabber. It kind of blinds you. Like if the light hits
It
the right way, you're
does.
like, oh man. But you
That's
know,
right. You know, maybe they'll just paint like, you know, what personnel they want on the field on their head. Like if they're on the sidelines and we're like 12 personnel and Kafka put his head down, they'll be like, all right, 12.
yeah. Nice. Those are college signs, right?
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, they just hang out, you know, college kids, they're, you know, too busy studying, so they don't have time to practice like that. All right. For Brian at Passing Time and my buddy Jacob, I'm Jason. We'll catch you next week. We'll get ready for the Super Bowl, talk about any Lions news that come out. So thanks for joining us, and go Lions.